So this will resonate with some people more than others. However, we wanted to talk about Integra and what our network looks like. So we're a fiber-based service provider up and down the West Coast primarily. Our fiber reaches from LA, San Jose, Seattle, Portland, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, so on and so forth. We do have long haul that goes into Denver, Minneapolis, New York as well. The primary thing we wanted to focus on today is we actually just made an acquisition in the San Francisco Bay Area. That was the Optic Access network that gave us some phenomenal long haul reach up and down the West Coast. So when you look at the reach from LA up through Seattle, there's a lot of data center connectivity up and down that coast. There's really only 3 main routes that go between LA and Seattle. We have 2 out of those 3 routes, one of which is unique only to us. When you look at those routes, we've got all the data behind this. A lot of these are shared routes. You know, when you trench, it makes sense to trench a whole bunch of fiber into those routes. One of these routes is exclusive to us. So when you talk about your customer base and those that are looking for diversity within their network, we definitely need to start talking to you guys about those customers. So with that one, move on to our case study.
So the case study that I want to share with you guys is we recently won a senior living facility with locations in Washington, California, and Las Vegas. They had 27 locations in all over those 3 states. So what happened was the customer hired a new IT director, and the IT director came on board and found out that he had a staff of 3 individuals that were managing 27 locations and stepped into an incredibly antiquated architecture. So each of the locations was standalone. Each of the locations was using best effort bandwidth to get out to the internet. So we all know how dangerous that is, right, in a senior living facility with the need these days for emergency medical records as well as just a communication piece between each of the locations. So what happened was the IT director immediately called the Integra business partner and said, listen, I need help. I've taken this job and I'm about falling out of my chair with what I'm stepping into. So the individual called our Integra business partner, as what Scott just outlined, they knew we have a strong presence in the Pacific Northwest and in California. So they immediately reached out to us and said, hey, can you help this customer out? We went out and met with them. And so immediately what we did is we said, look, we need network convergence. We need to make sure we get you set up on an Integra MPLS circuit with our cloud firewalling service. So the IT director could take care of all of the security and management from his office in Washington. And then we did a Mitel hosted PBX, IP PBX solution for the customer.
Do you provide that as well?
We did provide that. So what we did is we went in with an entire solution for the customer to make it easy on him. As you guys know, when you sell an IP PBX, you have to do site surveys, right?
Yes.
This was a staff of 4, and when I went to the IT director and said, this is the information we need to help you out at all 27 locations, once again, he almost fell out of his chair, right? I can't get my staff of 4 to get to all 27 locations. So as part of the contractual process, and because we're a smaller company that can be extremely nimble in helping our customers and our partners, we built into the contract that we would help them do the site surveys. So our operations team is dispatching to 27 different locations to help the customer figure out what they need. In addition to that, at over half of those locations, because they're older facilities, they have Cat 3 wiring. So what we're doing, instead of making them replace the entire cabling, is we're converting that Cat 3 through an Adtran NetVanta device so we can deliver the IP PBX. We put that IP PBX in 2 different colos, one in Portland and one in Tukwila, so they have a little bit of redundancy and some failover in case something happens. Portland, Oregon, and Tukwila, Washington.
Did you charge extra for this to visit all the sites, do the site
So
survey?
we have not. So the Adtran NetVanta device, it would be extra, right? So as we go out to each of these locations, we've said, okay, we're contracting you for 635 phones. However, after all of these site surveys, if we find that you need 500 phones, we're going to change the contract to charge you for 500 phones. If you need 700, we're going to charge you extra for phones. So we built that flexibility in order to help him get his arms around what he needs with a really, really light IT staff.
Yeah, so when you look at Integra, we are primarily a network service provider, but we do offer a lot of other services such as hosted PBX. And when you talk about those type of services, you need to be specialized in those services. Well, we've actually been a Mitel dealer for over 20 years, and we are the #1 cloud provider through Mitel. We have more cloud seats through Mitel than any other provider in the world. So it's been a long-standing relationship and one that we like to leverage. You take the network asset, you layer on top of it the strategic product so that you are in control of everything through and through. We don't like to layer on top of other type of providers because then we lose control. And at that point, we can't guarantee quality of service. In these cases, and in the case of Aegis, we can provide end-to-end network all the way down to the desktop across Cat3 wiring when needed and provide quality of service and guarantee it. It is.
So a question at the last table came up, what about the tenants, right? If they need phones in their rooms, because we're only taking care of the business needs for the customer.
That's a tough one. Unfortunately for the families, there's a lot of turnover. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Correct. It is, and it's one that we actually have a solution for. So through Mitel, we've virtualized everything in our colo facilities, but then we can take Mitel controllers, put it out at the premise.
IP the analog gateway in each closet. Every port is numbered.
Correct.
You can activate a DID on an analog port.
Just like that. And we can do it all from our network operations
You also
center.
do billing for the minutes, or is that included somehow?
It's a lot easier just to bundle it all in.
I agree. Billing old ladies for their minutes is not a good
It's not a good thing, it's bad karma.
It's really bad for business.
So what you need to do in that, because you make a good point, we made it relatively simple for them, right? You don't need a big complex solution to
There's no need to go do a truck roll to do a move and change when someone swaps the room.
Correct.
That's right. Flip a switch.
Yep. Exactly. We do it all virtually from our network operations center. Once we've got that infrastructure in place, we have full control of all of it.
How do you connect, your higher speed, I'm assuming you're putting like 10 or 20 megs into these things for both the voice and the data, the internet. How do you connect to places like up where we are in the Petaluma area when your pops are down in Sacramento and San Jose, I think you said? What do you do? Type 2 or?
So we've got, this represents our long haul network. What it doesn't represent here is our metro network.
Okay.
So we have just over 3,000 buildings on net in our metro network. We have over 12,000 long haul fiber route miles. Now, in the event that we cannot reach a building on our own network, we do have network-to-network interface agreements with other providers where we can still provide that quality service all the way through. Our preference is to keep it on our network, but when we can, we will utilize other providers for those connections.
Right.